If it's comedy you want, it's comedy you're going to get. Among the summer movie selections, there are always going to be a lot of comedy. So with that in mind, here are some of my recommendations. If you want a sophisticated comedy thriller, try Legal Eagles, starring Robert Redford, Deborah Winger, and Daryl Hannah. The film is about art, fraud, and murder. With good, solid performances, Legal Eagles makes for pleasant viewing.
Oh, let's give her a fair trial and then convict her.
Legal Eagles is rated PG, and I'm giving it an 8. It opens tomorrow, by the way. Now, the best comedy playing right now is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, starring Matthew Broderick. At the center, this film is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of personal freedom. Writer-director John Hughes has put together a very entertaining movie that is different. And when you see it, be sure and stay through the credits. There is an added treat. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is rated PG-13, and it gets a 9. I can recommend Back to School, starring Rodney Dangerfield, only if you are a Dangerfield fan. He portrays a rich businessman who returns to college with his son. There are typical Dangerfield kind of laughs, but that's about it. Back to School is rated PG-13, and it only gets a 6. Karate Kid 2 opens tomorrow. Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita return in their roles as the karate student Daniel and his mentor Miyagi. Karate Kid 2 is rated PG. For movies that are incredibly mediocre, you have Raw Deal with Arnold Schwarzenegger and a film called Space Camp. That's it for now. I hope to see you next week. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli. From the man who brought us The Muppets comes Labyrinth, a fantasy adventure film. It tells the story of a girl's hazardous journey through a labyrinth and a desperate race against time to rescue her baby brother. There's lots of action, a good script, and Jennifer Connelly and David Bowie are quite good. Labyrinth is rated PG, and it gets a 7.
I hate that woman. I hate the way she licks stamps.
Also opening tomorrow is Ruthless People, starring Danny DeVito and Bette Midler. This is a contemporary comedy with DeVito playing a crooked businessman who is trying to get rid of his wife, and she ends up being kidnapped. Ruthless People has its funny moments, but somehow I felt a little disappointed overall. Ruthless People is rated R, and it gets a 5. Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal star in Running Scared. They portray Chicago policemen who want to retire, but things don't go according to their plan. Running Scared is rated R. And American Anthem, which deals with the thrilling world of competitive gymnastics, also opens in theaters tomorrow. American Anthem is rated PG-13.
Never had one lesson.
Quickly, here are a few more selections. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is still my favorite comedy so far this summer. I'm giving it a 9. Short Circuit is good. It winds up with an 8. Very disappointing, though, is Karate Kid 2. I'm only going to give it a 5. Legal Eagles is a nice, sophisticated comedy. Although there are problems, it is entertaining, and I'm going to give it a 7. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli.
She may be trapped.
Big Trouble in Little China is tons of fun. It's a fast-paced, funny, well-crafted action-adventure fantasy film. The best way to describe it? Well, here's its director, John Carpenter.
How many times in your career do you get offered an action-adventure, comedy, kung fu, monster movie ghost story? Let's make it.
Kurt Russell stars as Jack Burton, an unlikely hero who gets thrown into the middle of a strange situation which far exceeds his wildest imagination. In order to make their way through the treacherous world beneath Chinatown, rigorous physical demands were required of all the actors. Do you prefer a role that is physically demanding as compared, say, to Silkwood?
No, I don't have a preference for it, but I do have more fun. I mean, like a picture like this is more fun day to day in the specific of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. However, playing a scene with Meryl Streep is much more exciting to me than doing a fight scene.
The film itself is cartoonish in a way, but the end result is a good time. If you want to get in from the summer heat to relax and possibly take a trip through the realm of Chinese mythology and folklore, then I highly recommend Big Trouble in Little China. On my rating scale, I'm going to give it a 9 for lots of fun and laughs. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli.
Hey, what more can a guy ask for?
Robin, how have you been?
I've been well, I've been better, but I'm holding on.
I'm glad to see you
Oklahoma
again.
City, people down there, you know, the Sooners. I mean, that's a whole big team out there. Bob John and I hope next year to be having we're breeding some bigger linemen next year. We've got one boy on steroids now, another boy working his way through, lifting mainly the house last year. And they're hoping to be a lineman basically to go in there and grab another quarterback and go make a wish.
Well, if you do want to know about the movie, Robin Williams stars as Jack Moniker, an ex-Chicago fireman who pours his entire pension and disability settlement into rejuvenating a rundown Caribbean island resort. Its name, Club Paradise. But what at first seems to be a solid business venture becomes a series of unusual misadventures and unforeseen events.
Remind me to get a new pilot.
I couldn't help but ask Robin how he felt after doing 32 interviews about the film Club Paradise, all in one day.
How many questions have you been asked like this, Robin? Well, not that many. How many of the same things have people asked you about Club Paradise? Has it going through your mind, the same questions? No. I'm happy. The film, Jamaica.
Although I think Robin Williams is very funny, I don't think Club Paradise is. For so many talented and funny people to be in one picture, it simply doesn't work. Although a couple of scenes are funny, Club Paradise is a major disappointment. On my rating scale, I'm only going to give it a 5. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli.
It's not that they're not beautiful, but you...
Between her screen debut and Aliens, Weaver has created such characters as the television reporter in the suspense drama Eyewitness, to the wildly possessed tenant in the comedy Ghostbusters. When Weaver's character Ripley returns to the alien planet, she must again fight to survive. This meant the actress had to fire some futuristic guns that were very real. Sigourney, I read that the most difficult scenes for you were the ones in which you handle the weapons.
That's true.
Why,
Yeah.
why is that?
Well, I'm not a big gun person, you know. I don't keep one at home, and I'm actually a member of gun control groups. So I think when I read the script, I read it so quickly, really. I mean, I was concentrating on the character and the story and everything, and I'd sort of skip over all these descriptions of the guns, so although I look like I'm handling it, I don't turn into a Marine. I'm not a soldier.
And Sigourney Weaver handles this movie very well. Although the script in this sequel is not as good as in the original film, there is tons of action and lots of suspense. The performances are good, and James Cameron's direction is right on the money. On my rating scale, I'm giving Aliens an 8 for a solid suspense thriller. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli. As of right now, Aliens is my favorite film of the summer. There's another movie opening next week called Nothing in Common, which may give Aliens a run for its money in terms of being my favorite. But for now, Aliens is the one. If you like the first film, odds are you'll love this one. Sigourney Weaver reprises the role that brought her world acclaim.
Do something!
I'm telling the people to see Aliens. But be forewarned, Aliens is extremely intense. There's lots of action and suspense. Aliens is rated R, and it gets a 9. For a comedy adventure, you may want to try Big Trouble in Little China. It's mindless, harmless fun. Big Trouble in Little China is rated PG-13. I'm giving it an 8. For other comedies, I can recommend Ruthless People starring Danny DeVito and Bette Midler. It's rated R, and I'm giving it a 7. Now, you have 4 films which open today, so let's talk about them. There's Heartburn starring Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson. It's a little disappointing, but still has good qualities. It gets a 7. There's Maximum Overdrive, Stephen King's latest project. A film called Out of Bounds is very weak, and it only gets a 3. And Haunted Honeymoon stars Gene Wilder, Gilda Radner, and Dom DeLuise. Now, I cannot recommend a film called Vamp. And as for Prince's latest film called Under the Cherry Moon...
Do you lie?
No, I don't lie. I will just say it should be taken out of the theaters and buried under the cherry moon and left there. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli.
Stay. Stay.
There is a nice blend to Nothing in Common. On the one hand, it's a very funny comedy. On the other hand, it's a thought-provoking drama. With this being Tom Hanks' best performance so far, he portrays a fast-moving advertising executive who is confronted with his parents' separation. They are played extremely well by Jackie Gleason and Eva Marie Saint. Gleason's performance is so good, I would not be surprised to see an Oscar nomination for him a little later. While the first half of the film shows Hanks' fantastic performance, the second half turns darker, as Hanks has to help his parents individually. Here's one of the confrontations between Hanks and Jackie Gleason.
I found out what you did to Mom and what you did to me. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. It was tough. Very tough. All of those dreadful things I did to you. But that's how I was brought up. And I did the best I could.
Fine. You know, tomorrow I'm doing a commercial about a family that cares for each other, loves each other. I'm faking it.
Nothing in Common is bright, well-paced, energetic, and well-written. Director Gary Marshall equally balances the mood swing from comedy to drama. Even though Nothing in Common is a mixed bag, it is sure to get your attention and I think well worth your time. It's the kind of movie that will stay with you long after you leave the theater. On my rating scale, I'm giving it a 9. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli.
Put it back. Shame on you.
The premise of A Fine Mess has Ted Danson as a girl-chasing actor who overhears a couple of guys planning to fix a horse race. His friend is played by Howie Mandel. They both are pursued by the mob, and from there you have unexpected troubles and several chases. I asked Ted Danson how he prepares for a film such as A Fine Mess.
No preparation at all, really. You know, you learn your lines and you show up on the set and you then discover what works and what's funny on the spot. It's not a character piece or something you can really rehearse. It's not that I had to go learn how to do something else that I didn't know how to do as a person. So it really is show up on the set and be funny.
Unfortunately, the movie is not that funny. Director Blake Edwards fails at bringing us a comedy movie in the tradition of Laurel and Hardy or Abbott and Costello. A Fine Mess has a couple of funny moments. That was one of them by Howie Mandel, but other than that, all the jokes seem forced and they simply don't work. On my rating scale, A Fine Mess only rates a 4. To be honest with you, if you took the word fine out of the title, you'd have what this movie really is. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli.
But I just had to tell you how much I love it.
I knew the $64,000 question was fixed. There's no way anybody can know that much about opera.
Stand By Me is a good coming-of-age film set in a small town. It combines drama, suspense, adventure, and comedy. The story is of 4 boys who set out on a 2-day adventure with dreams of becoming town heroes. They find themselves tested in ways they had never imagined. Stand By Me is rated R, and it gets an 8. One film I cannot recommend for this weekend is The Fly. Although Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis are good, there is entirely too much gore. It really takes away from the picture. The filmmakers try to scare the audience, and all they end up doing is making us sick to our stomachs. The Fly gets swatted down with a 4. I do highly recommend Nothing in Common, starring Tom Hanks and Jackie Gleason. Combining both drama and comedy, Nothing in Common makes you think about life and relationships. And the performances are tops. Nothing in Common is rated PG, and it gets a 9. Also rating a 9 is Aliens. Sigourney Weaver reprises the role which brought her world acclaim. Aliens has it all: humor, action, suspense, and more suspense. Aliens is rated R. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli.
Every day, thousands of people cross the border to get out. We're crossing it to get in.
And if you see the movie Born American, you will want to run quickly out of the theater. It is bad. The dialogue is ludicrous and full of old cliches. The acting is boring. Actually, Born American is funny. The problem is it's not supposed to be a comedy, but on to better films. Stand By Me is a very impressive coming-of-age picture. The story is simple and direct. The dialogue is realistic, and the 4 young boys who portray the main characters are very good actors.
Wagon Train's a really cool show, but did you ever notice that they never get anywhere? They just keep wagon training.
Stand By Me is charming, poignant, and entertaining. The language is a little rough, though. The film is rated R, and I'm giving it a 9.
Oh, let's give her a fair trial and then convict her.
Don't forget Legal Eagle, starring Robert Redford and Deborah Winger. Although the story is weak, this is a pleasant film, and I think worth it to see the performances by Redford and Winger. Legal Eagles is rated PG, and it gets a 7. Extremities, starring Farrah Fawcett, is good, but extremely intense. Aliens is also intense and very fast-paced. There's a film called Lucas, which is good. It appeals mainly to younger adults, though, and a film called Flight of the Navigator is very entertaining. That's it for now. I'll see you next week. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli. Still flying high above the box office is Top Gun. It is undoubtedly the biggest hit of the summer. If you haven't seen it, you still have a chance. Top Gun is about the courage, loyalty, and determination of the Navy's most elite fighter pilots. Tom Cruise is quite effective as a hotshot pilot trying for the Top Gun position. There's lots of action, fantastic flying sequences, but the love story within the picture is considerably weak. But the technical credits are what make Top Gun work. It's rated PG, and it gets a 9.
You're jealous! I've become free, I've been released, and you can't stand it.
That's right, I can't stand your movie called The Fly. Although Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis give solid performances, the gore and violence really take away from everything else. This latest film is an insult to the '58 classic starring Vincent Price. This Fly is rated R, and I'm swatting it down with a 3. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is one of the few films which has had some staying power at the box office. This is a very funny comedy starring Matthew Broderick. He creates a series of events so he can essentially take a day off from school. Good writing and performances plus John Hughes' streamlined direction make Ferris Bueller's Day Off a lot of fun. It's rated PG-13, and I'm giving it an 8. For another kind of comedy, don't forget Ruthless People, starring Danny DeVito and Bette Midler. It's rated R. If you like Rodney Dangerfield, then that should be enough to hold your attention in Back to School. And as I mentioned last week, for a very good coming-of-age film, try Stand By Me. And I'll see you at the movies. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli. I realize this is the slow movie season. Not many of them are being released right now, but it will pick up somewhat in the coming weeks. As for right now, well, most of you know the big movies. The last couple of weeks I've mentioned Top Gun, Extremities with Farrah Fawcett, Aliens, Legal Eagles, The Fly, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
Tonight I have some recommendations you may have forgotten we're still playing. You can still see Short Circuit starring Steve Guttenberg and Ali Sheedy. This is a fun movie about a robot that malfunctions and comes to life. There's plenty of action. Short Circuit, in short, is a pleasant, entertaining movie. It's rated PG and it racks up a 7. For a tense, action-packed drama, you may want to try Manhunter. From the man who brought you Miami Vice, Michael Mann, comes the story of a retired detective who is called back into service to hunt down a serial killer. Manhunter has that Miami Vice feel with the musical montages, slick clothes, fast editing, and although the ending lets you down and is disappointing, Manhunter has its moments. It's rated R, and I'm giving it a 6. Don't forget Karate Kid 2 starring Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita. I didn't like this film as well as the first one, but Karate Kid 2 has enough kick to it to keep you going. It's rated PG, and it also gets a 6. Howard the Duck is rather foul. I don't think you even want to mess with that one. And still, one of my favorites of the summer is Stand By Me. This is a well-written, well-acted, expertly directed film filled with great observations, humor, and intelligence. It's rated R, and it gets a 9. And I hope you have a nice movie-watching weekend. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli.
Can you really fly, Eric?
One of the films opening today is called The Boy Who Could Fly. This is a nice, wholesome family picture about, you guessed it, a boy who could fly. It's also about relationships, dreaming, caring, and truth. Although the ending is a bit corny and drawn out, The Boy Who Could Fly is a pleasant and emotional and moving film. It's rated PG, and I'm giving it an 8.
He's got a knife.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
Crocodile Dundee also opens today. It stars Paul Hogan as a friendly and rowdy crocodile hunter who has the experience of a lifetime as he explores a world unlike any he has encountered before. Crocodile Dundee is rated PG-13. Back to School, starring Rodney Dangerfield, is still around. Also, Nothing in Common, one of my favorite films of the summer, starring Tom Hanks and Jackie Gleason, is quite good. This movie has it all, from humor to emotion. It's rated PG, and I'm giving it a 9. And finally, although I did not care for it, Armed and Dangerous, starring John Candy and Eugene Levy, is still playing in local theaters. The film is about the private security business, and if you like John Candy, you will find enough in the picture to tolerate an hour and a half. Armed and Dangerous is rated PG-13. I'm giving it only a 4. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli.
I'm telling you, Fairley. Oh, yeah.
I want to try chicken McNuggets.
Tough Guys, starring Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas, opens today. They portray two jailbirds released from prison after serving 30 years for a train robbery. They have a hard time adjusting to the 80s, so they go back to something they know how to do, rob trains. Although it is fun to watch such veteran actors as Douglas and Lancaster, Tough Guys is much too slow in places, and some of the gags don't work. and much of what happens is too implausible. Tough Guys, though, is harmless, mindless fun. It is good for a few laughs, but that's about it. It's rated PG, and I'm only giving it a 6. Another film fitting that average fun category is Crocodile Dundee, starring Paul Hogan. Hogan plays a crocodile hunter who becomes famous after surviving an attack from a giant crocodile. This delivers enough laughs to work, but overall, the picture lacks energy. Crocodile Dundee is rated PG-13, and it gets a 6. Playing for Keeps also opens today. This is a somewhat childish but at times likable picture about 3 high school graduates who open a hotel for kids only. Everyone overacts, the script is lame, but there are some clever sight gags. Playing for Keeps is rated PG-13 and it gets a 4. For News 4 Nightcast, I'm Dino Lalli. Besides the old favorites currently playing, like The Color of Money, starring Paul Newman and Tom Cruise, Children of a Lesser God, starring William Hurt and Marlee Matlin, and Peggy Sue Got Married, starring Kathleen Turner, you might try The Name of the Rose with Sean Connery. Although this movie is slow, it kept my attention. Set in the year 1327, Sean Connery portrays an impoverished Franciscan monk investigating a series of murders at a monastery. The performances are very good. The cinematography is excellent. The Name of the Rose is rated R, and I'm giving it a 7. One movie I cannot recommend is Soul Man, starring C. Thomas Howell. He plays a young man who, in trying to qualify for a minority scholarship, darkens his skin. The movie just did not work for me. It appeared haphazardly produced, and the script is very weak. Soul Man is rated PG-13, and it gets a 2. Another movie which misses its target is Let's Get Harry, starring Robert Duvall and Mark Harmon. The premise has a group of plumbers trying to find their best friend who has been kidnapped by terrorists in South America. Once again, the script is the main culprit here, and the actors appear to be going through the motions without any energy at all. Let's Get Harry is rated R, and it gets a 3. And finally, for a few good laughs, you might want to try Jumpin Jack Flash, starring Whoopi Goldberg. There are some very funny moments in the film, although some of them do not work. Jumpin Jack Flash is rated R, and it gets a 7. I'm Dino Lalli, News 4.